Good morning and welcome to First Edition, the online ministry of First Community Church. My name is Glenn Miles. I'm the senior minister here in this amazing congregation, and we are thrilled that you've joined us on this day for worship. And we want you to know, no matter who you are, what you believe or don't believe, you are welcomed in this place as you are. Right now there's a QR code up on the screen. Would you take a moment, please, to click on that link, register your attendance, share a prayer concern if you have one. We'd love to be in prayer with you, and give the offering also as well. Today's preacher is the Reverend Seth Stearns, our Minister of Spiritual Life and Learning here at First Community. His sermon title is Falling and Rising. He's taken an interesting look at the Bible and the way the Bible can undergird government policies and ideas. It's a fascinating message, one that I know you'll be inspired by. Let's go to worship together now.
Good morning. It's lovely to be with you all again this morning. Very nice, a glorious day, beautiful day. It's a holiday weekend, Labor Day. Our faith is restored in God. The Buckeyes won. And you know, whenever I think about Labor Day, I think about Joey Chestnut. Oh, some of you know Joey Chestnut. So Joey Chestnut is a competitive eater. So he shows up at these events on July 4th and Labor Day, and he does hot dog eating contests. Now, last year, he set a new personal best for him and a world record. 83 hot dogs in 10 minutes. 83 hot dogs in 10 minutes. It takes me 30 minutes to eat 2. 83 in 10 minutes. I am certain that he is banned from all you-can-eat buffets. They are going to not let him anywhere near those. Now, you may be wondering, so what does Joey Chestnut and his eating 83 hot dogs in 10 minutes, how does that relate to my message this morning? There's no connection at all. I just think of him on Labor Day, and I thought you should know that there's someone out there who can eat 83 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Now, you also may want to challenge yourself if you go to a cookout tomorrow to see how much you can eat in 10 minutes and watch the faces of those people around you. So my thoughts this morning are guided heavily by the writings of Dr. David Gushee, a Christian ethicist, as well as curated material from a dear friend of mine, a very wise and intelligent friend, Brian Orner. So we mentioned Labor Day. Labor Day began in the observation of Labor Day began in 1882, celebrated on the first Monday in September, to honor and recognize the American labor movement and all the works and contributions that laborers have made to this country. It started in response to the harsh working conditions of the Industrial Revolution. What we saw then was long hours, low wages, unsafe environments. Child labor was common. And there were very, very few protections of workers who may have been injured on the job. There was lack of worker rights, no laws guaranteeing a minimum wage or working hours, maximum working hours, or the right to unionize. Employers had tremendous power over their employees and often would fire them should they attempt to organize, or to protest. Added to that, a growing gap of wealth between the wealthy industrialists and the poor laborers. The labor movement inserted a counterbalance to the unfettered and unvirtuous capitalism of the day. The psalm that was read this morning shares a similar theme as to what we see in the labor movement and all social movements that have emerged as a result of injustice. We also see it through the course of human history. We even see it in our own lives, namely, that we humans are inclined to be led by our stubborn hearts and follow our own counsel. We stop listening to the voice of God. Now, it's interesting, Psalm 82, the one that immediately follows the one that was read this morning, continues this theme and says this: God has taken his place in the divine council in the midst of the gods, small g. He holds judgment. Now, in this text, small g gods refers to those in authority. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked, asked God. Give justice to the weak and the orphan. Maintain the right of the lowly and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Those in authority have neither knowledge or understanding. They walk around in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. Listen to those words. Injustice doesn't just harm individuals. According to the psalmist, it shakes the cosmic order. Richard Rohr, in his book, The Tears of Things, which is a beautiful study of the prophets, tells us that when the people of Israel would get off track, it was the prophets who emerged and surfaced to warn the people and the leaders that they had shifted their attention from pleasing God to the pursuit of power, resulting in injustice. Many of the prophets began with the words, "Thus saith the Lord." That should get our attention. The prophets, almost without exception, would spend lots of time railing against the people for their sins of injustice. And then eventually, they'd land back at God's message of, "And yet you are my people." And there it would be, God's grace, God's forgiveness, God's willingness, actually not willingness, desire to be back in relationship with us. The New Testament speaks the same truth, but in more personal terms. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin, James 4:17. For I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Romans 7:15. I suspect we all know this to be true about ourselves, don't we? We have this inclination to follow our own stubborn hearts, and we stop listening to God. We can call this sin. We can use Carl Jung's term of the shadow self. The Buddhists don't like to talk about the notion of sin. They view sin as unskilled or unwholesome action. And I think there's something to that. I don't know if seeing ourselves as being sinful is particularly helpful. I prefer to acknowledge that, yes, we fall, but perhaps we are not fallen. But we do fall, don't we? We fall. And yet God's grace is there to meet us, and we begin again. Now, as I considered the various social movements that have taken place in our country in response to injustice, it got me thinking about the history of our country, the history of our democracy. The framers of the Constitution understood human nature very well. They were very familiar with classical texts that examined ancient moral and political thought. They were earnest in their quest to understand the various types of government structures that had been attempted throughout history and what structure might offer the best hope for our new country. Against the backdrop of centuries of authoritarian rule that more often than not was linked to the religious institutions, they architected our democracy. A new form of political structure that acknowledged the inclination of humans' quest for power over others and the injustice that would invariably follow. Acknowledging this inclination, they built into the Constitution separation of powers, constitutional limits, regular elections, independent institutions, federalism and decentralization, and legal opposition, which protected the rights of political opposition to organize, to criticize the government, and compete for power. Our democracy aligns really well with biblical notions that we all have inclination to follow our stubborn hearts in committing injustice, and that all people are created in God's image. All are beloved children of God, and should therefore have a voice in how they live, how they are governed, and none should be subject to injustice. Public theologian Reinhold Niebuhr said this, and I love this quote: "Man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary." Amen on that one? Amen. He's saying that our democracy acknowledges our inclination towards injustice, and in great wisdom, the founders placed counterbalances in the structure of democracy to guard against our worst inclinations. C.S. Lewis said this, "I am a Democrat, small d. I'm a Democrat because I believe in the fall of man." Winston Churchill said this in only the way that Winston Churchill could say it. "Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time." Christian ethicist David Gushee submits that while democracy isn't perfect, it is formed and aligned with some core Christian convictions and moral norms. As such, he believes that people of faith are called to engage more fully and actively in the democratic process. I heard him speak this past summer, and he challenged the audience, and he said this, "Politics absolutely should be discussed in the church, because if politics are not discussed, then ethics are not discussed." So, what do we as people of faith have to offer this world in light of our inclination for injustice and wrongdoing? What do we as people of faith have to offer the quest to protect our fragile democracy? David Gushee suggests that perhaps it's time to reintroduce a vitally important, though perhaps forgotten, element of our Christian faith tradition, that of covenant and covenantal relationships. Christian ethicist Hak Jun Lee believes that covenant is the central organizing category of Jewish and Christian theology and ethics. So what's a covenantal relationship? It's a deep binding commitment between two parties based on mutual trust, shared values, and a sense of sacred obligation. It's not like a contractual relationship, which is transactional and based on legal terms. A covenantal relationship is relational and moral in nature. A covenant relationship has 5 key characteristics. Number 1, mutual commitment. Both parties commit to each other beyond self-interest, often with a long-term or lifelong perspective. Number 2, there's a shared purpose. There's a common mission, a set of values that binds the relationship. Number 3, trust and loyalty. Trust is foundational and loyalty is expected even in difficult times. Number 4, moral responsibility. Each party feels a moral duty to uphold the relationship and care for the other. Number 5, transformational. These relationships often lead to personal or communal growth and transformation. I wonder what it would be like to rediscover what it means to live covenantally instead of contractually, transactionally. At every stage of its history, the Jewish people understood themselves to be covenantly bound to God and to one another. The power of this vision was that it worked regardless of the nature of the Jewish political sovereignty at the time. God related to the Jewish people through covenant, whether Israel was a tribal confederation, a kingship, in exile, or returned to its land under someone else's imperial control. We see covenantal language in the Christian tradition. Whenever we celebrate the sacraments of communion, we use covenantal language. Luke 22:20 and 1 Corinthians 11:25. And he did the same thing with the cup after saying, "This cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood." Throughout the history of our faith, we see this thread of covenantal relationship with God and with one another. Here at First Community, we use covenantal language during weddings, baptisms, even when we receive new members. There's no transactional contract signed during these events. It's a covenant that is made between various parties. Covenants are to be sacred, mutual, and binding. It means that we are to live lives of virtue. So what does it mean to live in a covenantal relationship? What does that look like? Covenants always include an understanding of shared behavioral expectations, shared values, virtues that align with the Christian tradition, virtues such as prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance, humility, patience, kindness, forgiveness, obedience to God, and gratitude. Paul shares in Galatians the fruits of the Spirit, 9 qualities: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. What would it be like if our churches became less focused on power and control and more focused on virtue? What would it look like for churches to double down on the gentle virtues taught by Jesus instead of arguing that such virtues are no longer relevant or expedient? What would it look like for our churches to offer learning opportunities to their communities on the covenantal foundations of democracy? What would it be like if people of faith and those across the political spectrum could gather in churches and have civil conversations about the solutions that are needed to face the problems here in this country? What would it be like if people of faith could lead the way to not only graciously navigate how to live in societies with profound diversity, but to even ask God to show us what we might learn from those who are different from us? What would it be like if people of faith remembered the persistent theme, the constant articulated concern in the Bible, that because we have chosen to live in a covenantal relationship with God and with one another, we are called to care for and protect those on the margins, those dominated by others, that we might that we might demand a politics of dignity, equality, and justice for all? What would it be like if people of faith deeply committed to a renewed practice of public witness, of Christian values and Christian virtues without seeking to impose them on others? What would it be like if people of faith, in the spirit of love and compassion, continued to live the dream of God's kingdom on this earth? I believe that people of faith are called to be defenders of our fragile democracy. And again, because it acknowledges and protects us from our inclination to grow in power and in injustice. And that, in theory, it recognizes that we are all equal and should all have a voice. Our democracy creates a space to be inclusive of all people. Martin Luther King Jr. called on all Americans to renew the U.S. democratic covenant according to its true meaning. For King, egalitarianism and inclusivity are crucial to find the kind of democratic covenant that Americans and people of faith should support. I wonder what it would be like to see our government leaders frequently articulate our national founding principles. What would it be like if our leaders called their citizens not in support of their own selfish vision or respective parties, but rather to the covenantal commitment and fidelity to our democracy and its virtues, its required virtues such as self-discipline, patience, unselfishness, and humility? What would it be like if our officers in government regularly articulated their specific democratic covenantal duties, obligations, and limits? Friends, we are the remnant. We are the church. We are called to live virtuous lives. We are called to fight for justice for the weak, the poor, the marginalized, those unseen, as we seek to live in covenantal relationship with God and with one another. But we fall. Oh, how we fall. But we are not fallen. And by the grace of God, we rise again. As people of faith, we rise up. As beloved children of God, we rise up. We rise by living out our covenant with God and with one another, by living lives of virtue that honor God and serve one another. Friends, let us hold one another accountable to be lights of justice, lights of mercy, lights of virtue, and to shine on, shine on, shine on. May it be so. Amen.
Oh God, be our hope in the middle of the drought and the flood. Grant us not wealth or too little, so we remember your grace and love. Teach us to plant in the sorrow and trust the rain will come. Teach us to lie down in peace and rest when the day is done. Oh, we only miss the water when the well runs dry. We can only count the stars in a cloudless sky. Oh, darling, would you put your hand in mine? 'Cause there's a time for water and a time for wine. Oh God, be our strength in the desert, be our joy, our daily bread. Sit by the fire and tell stories of the days that are ahead. Teach us to walk in the mystery, for to wander is to know the path of the root to find water. Oh, to wander is to grow. Oh, we only miss the water when the well runs dry. We can only count the stars in a cloudless sky. Oh, darling, won't you put your hand in mine? There's a time for water and a time for wine. There's a time for water and a time for wine.
Thank you for joining us for worship today. I trust that the music and the message were inspiring to you and set your tone for this week. Right now, we've put that QR code back on the screen. If you didn't register for worship, would you please? And also, if you have a prayer concern, please know that we would love to be in prayer with you, and all these requests come across confidentially. And then third, as you might understand, it takes quite a bit of funding in order to produce these worship services, not only in this place here, in this beautiful sacred space, but also as we produce them online. We'd love for you to take a moment and share with us if you have the means to do so. In the meantime, have a blessed and beautiful week.